Check 2, 1, 2. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are not Uncommon Joe. To give you a little rundown what happened, there was not a medical emergency. There was a surgery that came up. Uncommon Joe felt that they were going to be distracted and just couldn't do a good show tonight. So they will be performing at a later date, either August 2nd or 9th. I believe the 9th, but we have to verify that with them. Long story short, I called everybody. Do you want to play on short notice? And they said, no, we don't. So the Icebox Radio Theater is filling in because we get so few Wednesdays without rain. I didn't want to lose one. Got a couple of old-time radio shows for you tonight. One is called The Strange Dr. Weird. If you're a fan of It's So Bad It's Good variety, this is definitely for you. Mystery Science Theater type stuff. It's a wonderful, wonderful radio show. But we'll just see what it is. Other than that, we do have an episode of Quiet Please called Northern Lights, which is sort of a fascinating idea. Two scientists in Minnesota, this was written in the 30s, but still set in Minnesota, actually try to power a time machine with the power of the Aurora Borealis. And something horrible happens because it was old-time radio. If you're having a hard time hearing or making out the words, we are broadcasting on a micro frequency, 106.9. There are radios on either side of the park. If you move in next to those, it might be easier to hear. Or go sit in your car at 106.9. You should be able to pick up the signal for a block or two. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, The Strange Dr. Weird. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, videotape is important for archival purposes. It's also important to be organized when you are the videographer. These are just things I believe in personally. I have a whole manifesto on that. Allow me to express that for you now. As I step very slowly over to my microphone. Seriously, Jim, how long do you need? Because if it's like a minute.
Good evening. Come in, won't you? Why, what's the matter? You seem a bit nervous. Perhaps the cemetery outside this house has upset you? But there are things far worse than cemeteries. For instance, a woman with murder in her heart. As in my story tonight. A story I call The Voice of Death. My story, The Voice of Death, begins in the snow-covered wilderness of Canada, in a high, narrow canyon. A man and a woman on skis sit resting on the trunk of a fallen tree, catching their breath.
Blanche, I can't tell you how sorry I am that Uncle John didn't leave you anything in his will.
Oh, there's nothing to be sorry about, Gerald. After all, I was only your Uncle John's second cousin.
I wish that Jane and Dan had taken it as well. They certainly were downcast after reading that this morning.
Well, naturally. They were your uncle's niece and nephew, too, and had hoped to share in the estate with you. You can't blame them for being disappointed.
No, I suppose not.
We'd better be starting back to the lodge. I can see you're a bit uneasy about being in this canyon.
Well, isn't it a bit dangerous being here? Look at how the snow is piled up above us on each side of this canyon. If there was a snow slide, we'd be buried alive.
It isn't that dangerous. Of course, a loud noise or someone shouting might start a slide. Come on along now.
There is some sort of scientific explanation for that, isn't there?
Huh?
Well, I mean vibrations sent out by voice.
Yes, that's right. I've often stood outside the mouth of a canyon and started snow slides with nearby shouting.
Snow slide must be quite a sight. Hundreds of tons of snow roaring and crashing down with no hope of survival if you're caught in it.
Well, you can easily breathe now. We're out of danger. Oh, dear.
Did you lose something?
Yes, my camera. Oh, I think I left it back on the trunk of the tree you were sitting on. Oh, Gerald, would you mind giving it for me too terribly much?
Oh, of course not, Blanche. You say it's on the trunk of the tree.
Yes, that's right. Do you see it, Gerald?
No, Blanche, I don't.
Perhaps it fell in the snow. Look around.
I am looking, but I don't see any sign of it. Blanche, the snow!
Oh, Gerald, run this way. Too bad, Gerald. But that's what happens to people who stand between me and $1 million.
Oh, Blanche, it's so terrible. Jerry buried under all that snow. Perhaps we should have stayed in the canyon until they found the body.
Nonsense, Jane. There's nothing that we could have done there.
Dan and I will share Uncle John's estate now, but I'd gladly give up my share if it would bring Gerald back alive.
I know you would, dear. We crossed the river here, Jane.
But the ice looks so thin. Blanche, we didn't cross here on the way to the canyon, did we?
No, dear. This is a shortcut.
Oh, Blanche, it looks too dangerous.
It will support us. Here, I'll tell you what. I will cross first.
Oh, Blanche, I wish you wouldn't. That ice is going to break any minute.
Nonsense. See, I'm already halfway across.
But I can see cracks in the ice under your feet.
Oh, so can I. But the ice is still strong enough to support me. See, I made it. Now, Jane, it's your turn.
Blanche, I'm frightened.
Darling, there's nothing to be afraid of. Now, come along.
Well, all right.
Look, maybe you just should take your skis off. I think you will find it easier to walk across than to ski over on the ice. You know, you're not as good a skier as I am.
Very well, Blanche, if you say so.
Now, hurry, dear. It will soon be dark.
I've got them off now. Here I come.
That's it. See, I told you the ice would hold you.
Blanche, the ice feels as though it will give way under me at any second.
Oh, it felt the same way when I crossed. But as you can see, I managed.
Blanche! Oh, the ice is breaking! Help! Blanche, I can't swim! Blanche, don't let me die!
Oh, poor Jane. She should have known better than taking off her skis before crossing the ice. Well, now that leaves only Dan.
Will Blanche succeed in getting rid of Dan? Will she get Uncle John's estate? Will Dr. Weird be back to tell us the rest of this chilling tale?
Yes, I'll be back with all these questions. But aren't you going to ask the one about Adam's hats?
No, I'm not. You see, Doctor, there are no questions about Adam hats, because Adam is unquestionably the finest hat value in America today. Seriously, every Adam hat, regardless of price, offers outstanding quality and workmanship, choice of material, attention to detail. The style features of Adam are just as remarkable. Tailored in black by experts in an amazing variety of distinctive shapes and shades. Adam hats offer the latest word in smart fashion. No man can afford to neglect the appearance of his headgear. Every man can afford an Adams. Now, let's see what chills the rest of your story will afford Dr. Weird.
And now, to continue my story, the voice of death. It is the day following the tragic deaths of Gerald and Jane in the living room of the luxurious lodge of the late John Drake. There are Blanche, Dan, and Sidney Rand, the attorney for the estate. There's a strange look in Mr. Rand's eyes as he speaks to Blanche.
All I can say is it's very odd, Blanche. First you go skiing with Gerald, and he dies under a snowslide. And then just a few hours later, while alone with you, Jane drowns crossing a river.
I don't like your attitude. You act as though I caused their deaths.
Blanche is right, Mr. Rand. You haven't any right to say that. The village coroner said their deaths were accidental.
I know what the coroner said. Doesn't mean I have to agree.
Now, look, it's 5 o'clock now. If you don't start for the village station, right now, you'll miss your train.
Then you won't change your mind and come with me?
No. I told you I'm staying here for another week. I need the rest.
Well, I just hope you don't find permanent rest up here.
What do you mean by that?
Just this. If anything were to happen to you, Blanche would be heir to everything. Think it over.
Oh, Dan, you don't believe I had anything to do with their deaths? Do you?
Of course not, Blanche. It's absurd to think you were involved in any way.
4 days passed, days in which steadily falling snow kept Dan and Blanche cooped up in the lodge. With each day that passed, Blanche seemed increasingly nervous and jumpy for no reason that was apparent to Dan. When the 5th day dawned, bright and clear, Dan suggested a long ski run, and Blanche eagerly agreed. After skiing a few minutes, she called out.
Dan? Oh, Dan, we aren't going through the canyon, are we?
Why, of course we are.
Oh, Dan, let's go around it this time.
That's 3 mile further on. What's wrong with going through the canyon? Oh, is it because that's where Gerald died?
Yes. Oh, I just can't do it, Dan.
Look, I hope you're not brooding about Gerald's death. You must go on.
Oh, I'm not brooding. But, Dan, have you heard a voice calling outside the house the past several nights?
A voice?
Yes. I've woken up several times thinking I heard Gerald's voice calling out in the storm.
Oh, Blanche, you heard the wind howling, that's all. Now, come on, will you? We have to get through the canyon. It's the only way to calm your nerves. That's a girl. Now, only a couple hundred more yards, and we'll be out of the canyon.
Oh, let's hurry, Dan. This is where it happened.
Come along, then, if you want to hurry.
Blanche!
It's Gerald. It's Gerald's voice.
Blanche! Blanche, this is where you killed me.
Oh, no. No.
Blanche, why have you stopped? Come on.
I'm dead, Blanche, and you killed me.
I don't hear anything. I don't. It's just my imagination.
Blanche, come on.
I'll never leave you until you tell the truth.
Oh, no.
Confess. Confess.
Yes. Yes, I murdered you. I caused the snowslide. I shouted and caused it. I did it because the fortune was mine. Mine, and I was cheated out of it. Now be quiet. Don't talk to me anymore. Don't talk to me!
Blanche, look out. The snow is sliding.
What? No! Help me! Help me!
A moment later, as Dan stared, stunned at the spot where Blanche had vanished under tons of snow, Mr. Rand, the lawyer, came skiing up to him from around an outcropping of rock.
Dan, you fool. You were so close to that snowslide you almost got killed yourself.
Mr. Rand, she's dead. She's buried under all that snow.
Yes, I know. Well, you heard her confess, didn't you?
Yes, but when I agreed to follow the instructions you left for me in the mailbox, I never dreamed it would end like this. I kept on telling myself she was innocent.
Yes, but she wasn't. I knew she couldn't be. That's why I made her think I was clearing out. Instead, I went down to the gamekeeper's cottage by the lake. That's where I've been the last few days.
Yes, I guessed that after I got your first note, asking me not to show any surprise, no matter what happened. But, Mr. Rand, the voice that Blanche heard in the night, and the voice just now, I could have sworn it was Gerald's voice.
I counted on that. I knew Gerald very well, and vocal imitations are sort of a parlor trick of mine. My scheme was a wild one, Dan, but it was the only possibility of getting a confession from her. Those murders she committed were perfect.
2 perfect murders. And she was so beautiful.
Her own screams brought down that snowslide that killed her. I don't think all the judges in the world could have found a more fitting punishment than the one her own conscience provided.
Too bad about poor Blanche, wasn't it? Looks like the man who said the female of the species is more deadly than the male knew what he was talking about. But wait, if you're an heir and you know someone who stands to gain by your death, I'd be very careful to stay away from... Oh, you have to go now. Perhaps you'll drop in on me again soon? Just look for the house on the other side of the cemetery. The house of Dr. Weird.
Strange Dr. Weird, ladies and gentlemen, featuring Diane Adams as Blanche, Justin Kapla as a couple of characters, Cody Boyer as the Strange Dr. Weird and a couple of more characters, Gavia Yunt as the drowning victim. Your announcer was Beth Lothian, and sound effects by Douglas Lothian. We're going to take a minute and play a couple songs by Myron Howerlick for you and be right back with Northern Lights. Thank you very much.
I never won the lottery. Don't have the things of luxury. I'm trying to just be real for you to see and find a way to love you. I am nothing like the legendary Prince of Cool. I couldn't ever be everything to you, but my heart keeps finding ways to invent new rules and find a way to love you. It's not about having buns of steel, no money, hot clothes, no limousines. When I look at you, I like the way it feels. Please find a way to love me. I could fall into your arms, find some place for us that's soft and warm, free of cares, free from all harm, and find a way to love you. I don't believe the man when he sings, I can fix everything. Together we can see what the moonlight brings, and I'll find a way to love you. Book of love, we don't always see the sun above. I am always on the move, I never won the lottery. I don't have the things of luxury. I'm trying to just be real for you to see and find a way to love you. I don't believe the man when he sings. I can fix everything. Together we can see what the moonlight brings, and I'll find a way to love you. Together we can make our hearts sing, and I'll find a way to love you. Come on, it's our invitation. Beware, boys and girls are playing sweet jazz tunes by the light of the moon. Here you'll find improvisation, music, drinks, good conversation. Said, say what? Je ne sais quoi. It's gonna be a fait accompli. Laissez-les bons temps, laissez-les bons temps. Why don't you pull up the stool? Feels like it used to after school. Remember when? Dream you're young again. We got a laid-back atmosphere. You can see things crystal clear. In Vino Veritas, you got savoir-faire, you got class. It's gonna be a fait accompli. Laissez-les bons temps, laissez-les bons temps, laissez-les bons temps. I got to play my music every day. Laissez-les bons temps, to the bone. Come on down, sing. Laissez
Okay, we've had a few folks join us in the last few minutes. So just to reiterate, Uncommon Joe has rescheduled. You will get to see Uncommon Joe this summer. They just had a conflict today, medical conflict, and they knew they could not do a great show, so they went ahead and say, well, could you sub for us? And we said, sure. So we are the Icebox Radio Theater doing some old-time radio scripts tonight. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we got coming up from the Quiet Please program by the writer Willis Cooper, Northern Lights, a Minnesota set story written in 1948.
This is a story about temporal displacement of mass. It is also a story about teleportation. Do you know what those terms mean? No, I didn't think you did. But you stay right where you are, my charming friend, and you're quite likely to find out. You just stay right there and listen. I'll tell you everything you want to know, and maybe a few things you're not terribly anxious to know. Ever see the Northern Lights? Aurora Borealis is their right name. You don't see them very often below the 50th parallel of latitude in this country. But up in northern Minnesota and Canada, upper New York, places like that, they're quite common of a winter night. If you've seen them, you know what they look like. If you haven't, there's no use trying to describe them. Sometimes they fill the whole northern sky with waves of color, like a fire burning way beyond the horizon. Sometimes they're just long streamers of fire filling up the whole sky. And another time, they look like gigantic curtains of pure light, swaying, as if some cold cosmic breeze plucked at them, way far off there to the north. And you can hear them, too, sometimes. Well, maybe not exactly hear them, but there's a sound, a humming, a crackling somewhere inside your head. And there are times when you'd swear it's a voice calling to you, talking in some kind of strange language you can almost understand, filling your whole being with a kind of desperate, inescapable terror. You know what I mean? At night, in the cold night, voices talking and saying things to you that you can almost understand, filling the night sky with signs and portents of an inescapable terror. And nobody in the whole world knows what they are. Nobody in this world, at least, except me. And after I get done talking to you, you'll know too. And you won't be happy. Let me show you something now. This is from a recording I made on, December 13th, 1948. A little more than a month and a half ago. I started the recorder while Norman and I were just about finished with our work that afternoon here in the laboratory. I just set the microphone on top of the file cabinet there and turned on the machine. Listen, I'm going to play it back for you. The quality isn't very good, but you can recognize my voice and Norman's, I think. Here.
You got the coil rewound now, I guess.
Did you test it?
How can I test it when I just got it rewound?
Well, hurry up. It's almost 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's dark out. I didn't even realize the time.
Hurry up.
All right. Be a display tonight, do you suppose?
How do I know? Been a display the last 3 nights.
That was a dinger last night, wasn't it?
Yes, but the machine wasn't ready.
Hey, listen now. If you think you can do better than I can, you're Ow.
What's the matter?
It stuck my finger.
Where'd you put the copper sulfate?
Up above the sink.
Huh? Oh, I got it. What are you doing?
Testing the coil.
How is it?
Well, it looks okay. Hey, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, it's okay.
I'll be right with you. Hook it up.
What are you going to send?
Try my cigarette lighter. It won't work anyway. I won't miss it if I don't get it back.
I don't know how the thing will work when the northern lights aren't shining.
Maybe they are shining. Turn off the room light. Let's see.
All right. What's the matter?
Hey, look.
Oh, out early tonight. Oh, that's fine. The whole sky. Look, blue and yellow. Say, I never saw those long fringes before.
Never the same.
Oh, did you turn on the recorder?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's turning over. Let's see. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party.
Leave it alone. You about ready now?
It's funny about the Aurora.
Northern Lights? Now, what's funny?
Listen to this
Oh, I
part
don't
closely,
know.
friend.
I almost
Remember what I
hear
told you.
things. Not hear them, I mean, but it's kind of like somebody talking to you in a language you can almost understand. I don't know. I mean, do you ever notice it?
Sure. High frequencies, I guess. Or something.
Awful lot we don't understand.
Look, you go over there to the recorder and talk into the mic.
Talk what?
Well, just describe what happens for the record.
I'm no announcer.
I know you're not, but just say what you see, so we'll have an accurate report.
Okay. Now?
Go ahead.
This is an experiment in the temporal displacement of a solid object. In other words, the first actual demonstration of a time machine, if it works.
It'll work all right. Go on.
Paul is now placing his old beat-up cigarette lighter on the stage of the hypercucambulator, and he's now fitting the microchronometer to determine how far into the future he's going to send the lighter. How far, Paul?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. Now, at the end of that time, if our calculations are correct, and we hope they are, the cigarette lighter will reappear. In that period of time, we'll have been into the future. We could send it further into the future if we wanted to, I guess, but we'd just have to wait much longer for time to catch up with it and make it reappear. But 10 seconds, well, I mean, we can prove our point by sending it 10 seconds into the future just as well as 10 years ahead. In this way, we don't have to wait so long. How am I doing, Paul?
Hey, go into your commercial.
When Paul presses the little button, the cigarette lighter will turn to nothing.
That's not right. It'll be here, but it'll be 10 seconds later.
Yeah?
Listen now closely, please.
Well,
It's
now,
going to happen.
Mr. Paul McGilgit, that famous mad scientist, is about to press the big old button and send his lighter into the future. You ready, Paul?
Here we go. Stand by. Look, Norm.
My golly, it is gone. It just disappeared. Bang! Like that.
Hold your watch up close to the mic, so it'll record.
Yeah, there's no sign of the lighter. The little stage on which Paul placed it is empty, and it should reappear again in just a second if it really did work. 3, 2, 1.
It's back! It's back! It's back, Norm!
It worked! We made it! Well, let's see if it's alright. Ow! Oh,
Now what?
the lighter. It's cold, Paul. Here, take it. Paul, take it. It's freezing cold.
Well, what do you know? The darn thing's like a piece of ice.
Where the dickens do you suppose it's been that 10 seconds?
Now wait, friend. It's not the payoff yet. Listen.
You said in the future, and...
Time's caught up with it. It's back, but...
Hey, Paul, look. Where did that come from?
What?
There, on the stage where the lighter was. Where'd that come from in the middle of winter?
What is it?
It's a caterpillar, Paul. Little brown and black caterpillar.
Well, where do you suppose it came from? It wasn't there...
I'll tell you where it came from, Paul.
What?
It came from the same place where the cigarette lighter went.
What are you talking about?
Feel it, Paul. Feel its fur. It's as cold as the lighter.
A caterpillar. A little brown and black caterpillar. The kind they call woolly bears. You know, larva of the tiger moth. The Isa Isabella. In the dead of winter, and as cold as ice. Where did it come from? Huh? You want to know?
Incidentally, you know, the old-timers say that the woolly bear caterpillar is a weather prophet. If the brown bands on its fur are narrow, there's severe weather ahead. If they're wide, it's going to be a mild winter. Maybe. This one, you could hardly see the brown bands. Tough weather ahead. That's what the old-timers would say. But where did she come from? She wasn't there when we put the cigarette lighter on the stage. When time caught up again, there she was. She? Sure. Isabella. Isa Isabella. I told you, remember? Oh, she was wiggling happily when she arrived from somewhere in the future. But as she warmed up, she seemed to go into a trance. Almost a death-like trance. So, Norman said, put her in the deep freeze, and maybe she'll come to again in the cold. So we put her in the deep freeze. And in a half an hour, when we looked at her, she was wiggling happily. At 10 degrees below zero, friend. Now can you tie that? My goodness, she should have been frozen solid. Well, nothing special happened for a couple of days. That, you remember, was a month and a half ago, December 13th, 1948. Where were you the night of December 18th? Saturday night, a week before Christmas. I'd been Christmas shopping in the afternoon. I remember I came back to the laboratory to check up on some stuff. Norman was there, fiddling with things. Hi, Norm, I said. How's Isabella?
You know something funny, Paul?
What's the matter with you?
Who, me?
You look so pale. You sick? Eat something. Disagreed with you?
Paul, Isabella's singing.
Singing what? Isabella's singing. Why, you're Dottie.
She's singing, Paul. The caterpillar's singing.
Not tap dancing, I hope.
I'm not kidding you.
Cut it out.
Open the deep freeze and listen.
You been at the C2H50?
I haven't had a drink since Thursday night.
Well, now what,
Open the deep freeze and listen.
No kidding?
No kidding.
Well, you don't know where she came from. I won't be surprised at anything. Hello, Isabella?
Don't do that.
What's the matter? You afraid she'll answer me back?
Well, I don't know what.
Hello, Isabella? I hear you're singing.
I told you, Paul. Don't say...
Shh. I don't hear anything.
Now listen, Paul, I haven't lost my buttons. I've been hearing it all afternoon. I couldn't figure out what was doing it, and then I noticed it was louder alongside the deep freeze here. So I opened it up and stuck my head inside, and it was coming from her.
Huh. What'd it sound like, Norm?
I don't know. It was kind of like yeah.
Didn't say A-E-I-O-U and sometimes W and Y?
Now, don't rib me. I tell you, I heard it.
I think you'd better take a Christmas vacation, Norm.
I'm not.
I know, kid, but... I know. But listen, we've been playing around with some pretty deep cosmic secrets, you and me. We've managed temporal displacement, which nobody in the world has ever done, see? Maybe we both need a rest.
You know what I think, Paul?
What?
I think we managed teleportation, too, and we don't know it.
Teleportation? You mean like Charles Fort talks about?
I mean transporting tangible objects from one place to another without any mechanical means.
Electronically?
I don't know, Paul. All I know is that lighter was someplace where it was awful cold, and it wasn't cold here in this room.
Well...
And where did that caterpillar come from?
I don't know.
It came from wherever that cigarette lighter went, Paul.
But where?
I don't know. Somewhere. And you know what? I'm going to find out where it came from.
You are? And how, may I ask you?
I'm going to modify this gadget of ours. This hypercombobulator, I'm going to make it so it'll carry a man. and then, my dear boss, I am going to sit down in it, and you are going to send me out there somewhere in space and time, and I will come back and I will tell you all about it.
That's all for tonight, bud.
What?
Come on, I'll take you out and buy you a drink.
I'm not fooling, Paul.
Okay, you're not fooling, Norm. Get your hat and coat and come on. I prescribe hot buttered rum.
Now you listen here.
Turn off the lights.
Will you listen to me for a minute?
Turn off the lights. I want hot buttered rum.
Fine.
Gosh, look out at that window.
The Northern Lights. They're really bright tonight.
They sure are.
Look how they pulse. Up, down, up, down,
Norm,
down. What?
look at the deep freeze there in the dark.
What about it?
You see it?
Light. Paul, light.
I see it, Norm. It's right in step with the Northern Lights.
And the same colors, too. Red, blue, blue, blue. Up, down, up, down.
Coming from the deep freeze where our little friend Isabella was singing to you. Now, what do you...
Hey, Paul, listen.
I don't...
Listen.
We never did get that hot buttered rum. We stayed there in the laboratory for a long time, listening to the voice of the thing in the box, endlessly repeating A-I-O, the vowel sounds of our speech, and watching the light that pulsed up from the deep freeze in perfect rhythm with the flickering of the Northern Lights. We watched, and we thought long thoughts that I don't remember any to tell you now. I do know we both of us thought of ways to perfect our little mechanism, our time machine. Our machine that brought back a little cold brown and black caterpillar from somewhere. And when it was morning and the lights had faded from the northern skies, we found that our machine was very different. The stage where we found the caterpillar was larger now. I had only a vague recollection of what had happened in the night. I said to Norman, I said, what did we do last night?
I don't know for sure, Paul.
Did we rebuild that thing? Make it larger?
I don't know. I think I dreamed I was working on it. Remember hitting my finger with a hammer.
Now, let's see. Thumb's all bruised. It certainly looks it.
Nobody could have gotten in here. The door's locked.
The machine's certainly different.
This coil I fixed. Look, it's rewound. Did I do that?
Oh, my head hurts.
Yeah, mine too.
I don't get it.
I don't either, but I wish I could.
Listen, Norm.
What?
Maybe we did change it.
But how could we have done all this by ourselves that quickly?
I got an idea.
What?
Why? Maybe Isabella helped us.
The caterpillar? Oh, come on. Don't mess with me.
Let's see, shall we?
All right, open the deep freeze.
Well, I opened it. It was empty. There wasn't any brown and black caterpillar in the deep freeze. We took a flashlight and looked over every inch of it. We stood there and looked at each other for a whole minute. Norman said, well, I just shook my head. We went over and sat down. All of a sudden, I said, I found her, Norman. And there she was. There was little Isabella, the caterpillar, crumpled up, stone dead on the floor of the laboratory. And you know, caterpillars have little tiny paws. In one of Isabella's paws was the end of a long piece of wire that ran up to the generator.
How did she get out?
I said the thing couldn't be opened from the inside. I said it was fastened down tight when I took the lid off just now.
But she did get out.
Maybe. Maybe she did help us, Norm, I said. he just sat there and stared at me. And I got up and put on my overcoat.
Where are you going? Where are you going, Paul?
I said, I'm going out find something. And Norman, where I'm going, it's cold, I said. I know that, and I'm going to find out what's been going on there, and where that caterpillar came from. And Norm goggled at me. I stepped on the stage of the machine that was to take me away, somewhere in time and space. I said, Norm, turn it on. Well, he reached over and touched the switch. He didn't say a word. And I braced myself. I nodded at him. Go ahead, I said. And he pressed the switch. Nothing happened at all. Nothing. Why?
Paul, it's daylight. There aren't any northern lights out.
Well, it was just as well. I had a chance to think about it a little, and I realized that just an overcoat wouldn't do me any good where I might be going. And so when it was dark and night again, and the northern lights were flickering and dancing in the sky, I put on a high-altitude aviator suit that had its own source of heat supply. Norman shook his head as I got back on stage and nodded for him to press the switch. Cold. You've never been cold, friend. Dark. You wouldn't know how dark it can get. And I was standing on an immense plain that stretched so far into the distance. The plain was snow and eternal ice. A dead, cold, white world with the blackest sky above me. And the northern lights reached from horizon to horizon. Even though the high-altitude suit, I could feel the biting cold. And I was afraid, shivering, objectively afraid. The streamers of the northern lights reached down toward me and wrapped about me. I heard the sound of voices screaming into my mind. I could understand them. I wished heartily I'd never played around with cosmic forces. They yelled inside me. The heavy helmet. I yelled, Norman! Norman, bring me back! And there was nobody to hear me. No. I don't know where I was. Another planet? Maybe. The North Pole? Maybe. The lights were all around me. Maybe that's where it was. But it was the most terrible, awful, cold, lonely place you can imagine in 100 years. The lights, the flickering northern lights, crawled over me and beat at me. I could almost understand what they were saying, and then a crash, sudden blackness. I was standing again in the laboratory. I'd left only a few short seconds ago. And Norman was tearing at the fastenings of my suit and beating at me with both hands. I wondered what in the world he was doing until I got the helmet off. He was brushing caterpillars off me. Thousands of cold, freezing cold brown and black Isabella caterpillars. I was in bed for a week or more. I don't know how long. Wherever it was I had been, I'd nearly frozen to death in those short seconds. And at last, I was able to come back to the laboratory. I sat there that night with Norman, and outside the windows, the northern lights were brighter than they'd ever been before. Purple, green, yellow, black lights, even. And there was a new rhythm tonight. A kind of code, almost words, though thoughts not quite formed yet. Curiously disturbing. Norman thought didn't seem to be as disturbed as I was. He just sat quietly and looked at me.
Where'd those caterpillars come from, Paul?
I don't know where. I don't know where I was. That's all I know.
Did they attack you, or?
I don't know. They came from the lights.
The lights?
The northern lights. Where are they, Norm?
The caterpillars?
Yes. Where are they?
In the deep freeze where we had Isabella.
Poor Isabella.
What's the matter with you, Paul?
No, I'm listening.
Listening to what?
Don't you hear them?
No, I don't hear anything, Paul.
Don't you?
I don't hear anything.
Then listen. Listen.
I don't hear anything, Paul.
Turn on the recording machine. I want to see if we can pick up their voices.
There isn't anything, Paul.
Turn it on. Turn it on. I want to record it. Quick. Quick, Norman. They're talking to us. Listen, friend. I want to play you another recording. This is what came out of our tape recorder that night when I was listening to the voices and Norman couldn't hear anything. Just listen.
I still don't hear anything, Paul.
Be still. Listen.
I tell you, I don't hear any...
Listen.
What's that?
Look at the deep freeze.
The top's coming open. Look at the light around it, Paul.
Be quiet. Watch.
How did they... Good Lord, look. The caterpillars are coming out, Paul. Look at them. There's millions of them.
Be still, Norman.
But Paul, your voice.
Be still, I said.
What's the matter with your voice?
We want to talk to you.
You what? You said we?
Why, of course, Norman. We.
Who? For the...
It is Paul's voice, Norman. Paul's voice. Voice. But it is not Paul speaking. Listen.
Listen. A-I-O-U.
We speak to you.
Paul!
Not Paul. We, the people of the lights. We from the cold. We are speaking to you with Paul's voice.
I tell you, that...
Paul's voice will tell you what to do when the time comes, Norman. We go to the machine now. Paul's mind is ours for a little time now. We go to the machine. The machine that brought us to your world from the world of the lights.
Who are you? Who?
The people of the lights. To take over this world of yours. Only this world of yours is so hot. We must have the cold world. And we know how to make it cold.
What's the matter, Paul? Paul!
So hot.
No.
Quick, Norman. Turn on the machine. Send us to places in your world. No, our world. Hurry. So hot. Hurry. So hot.
Paul!
Hurry. Turn on machine.
That's the end of the recording. No, I don't know. I don't have any recollection of it at all. Well, the recording's there, isn't it? That must be what happened. When I woke up, Norman was gone, and there were no caterpillars in the place here. And our machine that took people and things away into time and space, was wrecked. I don't know what become of them. You heard what they said about my voice. They're going to take over this world and make it a cold world, like the one where they came from, whatever that is, and wherever they went. No, I I don't know where they went, where the machine sent them. I do have ideas, yes. Are you cold? It's freezing in here. And, just for example, you read the papers. Look at the newsreels. Did you see the pictures of the snow in Los Angeles? In subtropical Los Angeles, where it hasn't snowed for so many years. I wondered about it too. I wonder if anybody saw any brown and black woolly bear caterpillars in Los Angeles. Larva of the tiger moth, Isa Isabella. Snow in Los Angeles. County snowfall records at Los Angeles Civic Center in 24-hour period in 1 month, a bit more than 0.3 inches, January 10th to 11th, 1949. A bit more than 3 inches, January 1949.
This has been Northern Lights by Willis Cooper, featuring Justin Kapla, Cody Boyer, Diane Adams, Doug Lothian on sound effects. You got a nice evening. I got to check. I'm not sure who's going to be here next week, but I'm sure it's going to be a great show. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Drive safe.